Starfire Protocol is undoubtedly one of the best exotics in the game. It sits right next to monsters like Heart of Endless Light and Gear Falcons for that top spot. Its exotic perk Fusion's Harness states, fusion grenades have an additional charge, and recharge from empowered weapon damage. Fusion grenades grant Rift energy. It sounds basic because it is. Fusion grenades have an additional charge. That part is self-explanatory. Fusion grenades recharge from empowered damage. Dealing any damage while empowered grants you fusion grenade energy. Being empowered means being in an empowering rift or a ball of radiance. Fusion grenade kills grant rift energy. Specifically, every single grenade kill that you get will grant you your entire rift back. Before we get any further, there is one essential aspect to pair with this exotic, Touch of Flame. It grants your healing, solar, firebolt, and fusion grenades enhanced functionality. Specifically, it increases your fusion grenade damage from 29,072 per fusion grenade to 62,616. That is a 115% increase. With that alone, you could take this build into any activity and demolish everything that opposes you. But that is not enough for me, so let's get to build crafting. The first and most important part of build crafting with Starfire Protocol is choosing the right weapons. You want a weapon that deals damage over time, and a weapon that has the Demolitionist perk. Your first weapon that will deal damage over time is going to be either Anarchy or Witherhoard. Just stick the boss with either of the weapons and notice an increase in grenade energy you get in comparison to dealing damage normally. For the rest of the video I will be using Witherhoard. It is currently the better option, and it is really important to have the catalyst for this weapon as it maxes out the handling and grants it auto-loading, both of which increase the efficiency of the build. Your Demolitionist weaponry is to ensure as little time as possible is spent not throwing fusion grenades. My choice is and will always be an SMG, specifically the Achilles one, but any Demolitionist weaponry will work wonderfully. If you really want to max out your damage per second, consider using a Demolitionist or auto-loading rocket launcher. I'll use my auto-loading Hothead, but keep in mind that an easier and more accessible option is the Primula B from the Witch Queen DLC. Well, how much damage does it do? Let's test against Frizela. I'll have my slave partner here use Divinity while I use my Well of Radiance and attempt to deal as much damage as possible. In total, when using Starfire Protocol and the optimal weaponry, you can deal 2,042,502 damage on Frizela. In comparison, Linears deal 1,184,765, and the new Target Lock LMG does 1,004,795, or 1,387,178 if used with Gear Falcons. Keep in mind this does not include any extra damage that could be granted with Wolfpack rounds from the Gallarhorn rocket launcher. But that's not it. Let's say you don't have heavy ammo. This combo would still deal 1,536,704 damage, and all it asks for is some special ammo from the single most ammo efficient weapon in the entire game. So already, it is insane just for DPS, ignoring all other possibilities of buildcrafting with exotics. You could take this into any content and turn it into a joke even if you go in solo, as you will do just as well because this build does not rely on crit damage or any debuffs. It makes use of Well of Radiance, so dying while attempting to deal damage is not an issue. Make sure you always have double ashes to acids on. This will turn your grenades into super generating machines, and it will allow you to almost have 100% uptime on your super. As while you are in your well, your weapons are empowered, so you can gain fusion grenade energy by dealing any weaponry damage. Then you can use your fusion grenades to gain more super energy, and before you know it, you have your well back, and most of the time you can get it back before the first well runs out. The only limitation to this is the lack of enemies for you to supply your entire super back. And as if that isn't enough, we haven't even talked about build crafting with combat style mods yet. There are two main approaches I like. The first is to use Heal Thyself to boost the survivability of the build. By using Elemental Ordnance to spawn Solar Wells, Elemental Charge to convert the Solar Wells into 2 Charge of Light stacks, and 3 copies of Heal Thyself to regain all of your health on a grenade kill at the cost of 1 Charge of Light stack. And since you make a Solar Well every time you kill something with your grenade, the combo is able to cycle very easily and add an incredible amount of survivability to the build. The second approach is to use Firepower to increase the amount of grenades you are dishing out. By using Elemental Ordnance again to spawn Solar Wells, Elemental Charge to convert the well into 2 stacks of Charge with Light, and Supercharge to increase the capacity of your Charge with Light stacks to 4 instead of 2, and lastly 2 copies of Firepower to gain 30% of your grenade back every time you throw one. Since you make a Solar Well every kill, you can cycle this combo very easily to substantially increase the amount of damage your fusion grenades can dish out. Keep in mind that if your teammates are using powerful friends, they can also grant you 2 stacks of Charge with Light every time they cast their super. And if you're doing this in a boss phase, you can plan this out with your teammates so that you always have Charge with Light stacks to increase the efficiency of your damage. You could also use this build to use all kinds of Oremine cells by just using the Wrath of Rasputin, which allows you to use your fusion grenades to create Oremine cells, and that grants you access to all kinds of Oremine cell builds. I won't go through them here, however, as there are way too many approaches to take, and instead I will leave you to explore that path on your own. There is so much more you can do with this exotic, but for the sake of time, I will leave them for you to find out. But just know you can use the grenades to access almost every single combat mod in the entire game.